This is Gary. Today I'm going to go and kind of explain how, if you want to grow citrus in a container, kind of how I do it. And I did find a new, it's not a new one, I've known about them before, but never ordered from them, of a nursery in Texas that will ship out nursery to you. And they got some different varieties of citrus that you can get in the stores. They've got, I know they have the Austrian finger lime, which is kind of a really exotic one. They do ship outside of Texas. Of course, there are 5 states that they cannot ship to. You got Arizona, Louisiana, Florida, California. Those states, Hawaii, they can't ship, but they can ship to the other states. They came in really good packaging. And this is the packaging they came in right here. And they put in, you know, here's where they put the, so much for getting those containers. Here's, you'll see it later in video. And it came in this box here. So it came in a nice big box. If you order over $150 worth of plants, free shipping. So here are the plants that came in, as you'll see in the rest of the video. The first part of the video got messed up and I'm fixing it. Then the card that I had got messed up and I had to go back and buy it and replace it. Went to Walmart, and guess what? Walmart doesn't have a camera department anymore. So, but I did finally find where they had like 1 or 2 cameras, and then they had the SD cards. Believe it or not, I found thumb drives before I could find SD cards. So anyway, one of the ones that I had was the Pomelo, and then I had the Shiranui. And that's a Sumo. If you've ever seen the Sumo mandarins you get in the store, they look like this. Got the little neck on it. Now this is a sweet lemon, so of course the other ones will be orange instead of yellow. But I also had, got a blood orange from them. It come up to having to have 5, so I actually, got those. Main thing is USDA has put out a new climate zone. And a lot of you gardeners are going to look at that, and you look at a lot of websites saying, well, if you're in zone 8A, 8B, 9A, you can grow citrus. You can if you do a lot of protection in the ground, south side of the tree. 8A, to me, you got to plant in containers to bring them in. The good thing about in this area is you can put them in containers and leave them outside until it gets below 30 degrees. Take them, put them in your garden, put them in your garage. Tell your wife it's okay. Your wife won't mind if you bring them into the house for a few days, I'm sure. My son's laughing. But she'll understand. And if it's the wife, the one that's pulling out, your husband's not going to mind. If he does, make it up to him later. But that's the way to go, because if you put them in a container and you're able to bring them in and out, they can handle temperatures in the 30s. So once it gets above 30, bring them back outside, except for figs. Limes. Limes are a little weird. They can't handle hardly any cold at all. But your satsumas and oranges and all that, they can take down into the upper 20s. So bring them in and out. It's not that hard. Put them up close to the garage. And that's what I was going to say for the first part of it. Just kind of introducing you. This is a good way to do the citrus. Look at some of the other videos. You'll see I've got citrus. They're 2 or 3 years. They made a lot of citrus this year. The trees I put in the ground didn't make any because we got some cold weather, knocked all the fruit back, the bud wood back, and it didn't produce any fruit this year. So it'll give you fruit sometimes when the ones in the ground won't. If you can grow them in if you're a 9A, yeah, you can grow citrus in ground, but you're going to have to protect them sometimes. I don't think you can in 8B. Now, certain years you can, but y'all went through, Central Texas went through Snowmageddon. If it gets down to 5 below 0, it's killing everything. I don't care what you do. So, again, we're going to continue with the rest of the video, but just kind of wanted to say it's very doable, and I'm going to show you how to make the potting soil. Tell you the varieties that I've got. I will put the varieties down in the description. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I will reply to them. I've been doing this for about 10 years. Now most of my citrus isn't that old because I raised them up to a certain height, put them in the ground, and now I'm kind of buying some varieties I'm going to keep in the ground. But I have had fruit trees in the ground in containers for 10 to 12 years. So it's doable. It's not necessarily a short-term deal. Anyway, the next part of it I'm going to show you is how to make the potting mix. Thank you. Okay, one thing that's important whenever you're growing citrus in containers is you need to get some good quality potting mix. I make my own because I think it's better than the potting mix you can get in the store. You know, Miracle-Gro is fine if you're going to be growing tomatoes or whatever. It's got a lot of peat moss in it, and it's going to retain a lot of water. And in the wintertime, that's a bad thing because it can cause for root rot. So one thing that I do is I will use pine bark mulch. This is Living Earth pine bark mulch. Here's some of it. Here's what it looks like right now. Now this stuff has been sitting here all summer in the bags, and so it's broken down a good bit. Because of that, normally I promote the 5-1-1 potting mix. It's 5 parts pine bark mulch, 1 part perlite, 1 part peat moss. But because this stuff's broken down and it's almost turned into compost, I did not this time put in the peat moss. I just put in 6 parts of the pine bark mulch, 1 part of the perlite, and mixed it all together. And that's what I'm going to be using. Very simple, very easy. I'm not going to adjust it for pH. I can put any lime in it. See if I have any problems with that. If I need the calcium, I might end up putting in something else for calcium. But anyway, one thing to remember is when you do that, this mix or any other mix that you buy, they may have a little bit of fertilizer added to it, but it doesn't have any fertility to it. If you're using, I don't use organics in a container because organics, you have to get that biology going, the mycorrhizas and all these other things going in that pot. Your pots get hot, they get cold, they get dry, they get wet, and that bacteria doesn't like that, and it kind of dies off. It just doesn't work well. It hasn't worked well for me, and a lot of other people, even though they may be organic gardeners, they will use synthetic fertilizers when it goes to containers. And what I use is Miracle-Gro because it's cheap. There is some better out there. I think Foliage Pro is one that's probably a better fertilizer overall. Just don't use much of it. I mean, this spoon from here, I'll use a full one of those when I water to 2 gallons of water that I put in my watering can. Osmocote, it's good. The only thing in the summer, it's going to break down faster than what it shows, because you'll say, feeds up to 6 months. That up to is in cooler weather. In hot weather, it's probably going to last about half that long. Not a problem. Now that also means if it tells you to put 1 cup per gallon, I think, or something like that, 1 teaspoon per gallon, that means that you have to cut your rate in half because you don't want to put too much of this down, because it's breaking down faster. It's going to release more fertilizer. I did that with figs 1 year. And so anyway, that's how I do it, because the problem you get into if you try to use organics is this stuff is going to have boron, copper, iron, manganese, molybdenum, zinc. You need all that stuff to grow the plants. This stuff here is not going to have it in it. So how do you know? And if you're using native soil, you're going to have that normally. I mean, most people you have all the magnesium, you got the calcium. You don't have calcium, but you have the calcium. You have these different things in native soil. Native soil does not work good in pots because it retains water too well, and it gets really compacted. So you should never put, just normal, what we call dirt or normal soil, native soil, in a container. So since you don't have that, you don't have an area for the micronutrients, you're going to have to supply that somehow. So you can't say, well, I'm going to put blood meal in. Well, blood meal is great for supplying nitrogen, but it doesn't have the other micronutrients in it. So if you're going to go with some of your natives or some of your organics, just remember you're going to have to somehow supply those micronutrients, and I've never been convinced that azomite does a good job of it. Yes, it has micronutrients in it, but from what I've understood, they're not in a form that the plant can take up, and it takes many, many years for that stuff to break down to be in a usable form. So anyway, that's why I use the synthetic fertilizers. I think it'll be a lot easier if you use the synthetics. But some people, they're not going to use synthetics regardless, and I understand that. But I'm in the process of telling you how to grow food and not trying to get, you know, anti or pro organics. Organics can work well. I just don't think they work well in that situation. And as far as wanting to be natural, there's nothing natural about growing citrus in a container. I mean, these are plastic tubs. It ain't never going to happen in nature. We're doing it, so, you know. Anyway, that's my philosophy on that. Now these did come up well. They were all wrapped up like this, so the soil can't get out of them. You know, I'm impressed with the size of them. They're good size. The ones that I got two of the Shiranui, and I will put these down in the container in the comment or in the description. And got two of those because I needed 5. I'll try to get free shipping. Then I got the Oroblanco Pomelo, and then I got a blood orange. It's not Sanguinelli, but it's kind of like that. And then I got the Valencia Orange. And like I say, the Valencia Orange probably is not going to be very cold tolerant, and the Pomelo is not going to be very cold tolerant. So they kind of need to be in raised beds. I mean, it needs to be in the containers. Now, I'm going to put these in smaller containers starting out. The reason why is you don't want to put this size in a pot that size, because what'll happen is it's got a small root system, and your roots will pump out the water around the edges of it, around here. But this outside is going to stay wet, and get too much wet, you could potentially have root rot. Now, I've not had a problem with something like blueberries or whatever. They have a very aggressive root system, or even figs. But you know, citrus does tend to have, you know, some issues with root rot. Now, one thing about me that's going to be different from some of y'all that's watching the video, since I'm in 9A, you know, today's a cold day. It got down to probably 30 degrees. Got a little bit of ice on one of the have some water sitting out. It's a cold day for us. Now, did I pull in any of my tropical plants? No, because it got down to 30. I'm not that worried about 30. But once it gets into the 20s, I'm going to put them in that garage over there. It's not a very big garage, but I can put most of my stuff in it. The other stuff I will put on the south. You know, I got the house where I can put on the south facing part of the house underneath the eaves. That's going to give some protection if I run out of room in the garage. So anyway, let's get up the potting. To me, this is fairly easy, but for other people, it's not. I'm going to do the pomelo first. First thing you're going to want to say is, how deep do you want this thing? Now, what I'm going to do is, you know, I can't just put it down here and pile around, because it's going to be below that. You don't want to get any deeper than what it was planted in the nursery. So, I'm going to add some. This makes a good indication. That's going to be about right. You don't want it too deep in there, but you don't want it too shallow either, so you can't water it. And the way I always take these out, they got a big hole in the bottom. Okay, that's the root system. I don't mess with the root systems if they're not circling, and these aren't circling. I see a lot of people try to mess with them. I don't think it's a good idea. Those roots don't like to be messed with. Now, tomato plants is different, but I still don't mess with tomato plants because they're going to do good anyway. But if you do have a tree that you have circular roots on them, yeah, you probably need to go ahead and straighten those roots out and cut those roots to where it won't be continuing to grow in a circular fashion. If I grow them in this pot and I get roots that are growing around all the way around that pot, what can really happen is, if you get a root that goes right around here, as that root grows, it chokes off the top of the plant. So, remember to put in, when I get scientific with this stuff, see, I put in some of the Osmocote. You don't want to take like dry fertilizer like this and put in there and water it, because you get too much, may get too much of that fertilizer around the roots and can burn the roots. But this stuff's not going to burn the roots because it's going to slowly release the fertilizer. And just fill it up. Now this does have some stuff on it here that I'm going to have to take off. I think that's where it's just protecting the roots. And this here, you do want to be careful. I'm going to leave these on right now, but eventually you got to take those off because they will hurt your tree. And then what I'll do once I get through with that, I'll water them in. I'll do the same thing with this one. And this is going to be the blood orange. Give them that good speech about not messing with the roots. This one falls apart on me. So just gently put in there as you can. And the reason you put that Osmocote on in the middle or underground, nitrogen loves to go back into the atmosphere. That's where it started out, and that's where it wants to go back to. So if you leave it on top and it breaks down, it might just release out into the atmosphere and you lose it. So most fertilizers, that's when I tell you, you need to take your fertilizer and mix it into the soil, and it is best. And certain fertilizers are worse about it than others. Urea is really bad about going back into the atmosphere, so you got to be careful with it. And let me get the other two in, and I'll come back. That way you don't have to watch me do each and every one of these, and I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, I've got them all potted up from these pots here into these pots now. After you pot these up, you always want to water them in to get rid of any of the air bubbles in them. I want to use that good on each one of them. And right now they're in the sun. Since these things just came from the nursery and probably been in a greenhouse, I'm going to take these and put them underneath the shade under the tree for a couple of days. It's supposed to get down in the low 30s the next 3 or 4 days, so I may actually take them inside or take them in the garage, just so I won't have any problems with them. Getting sunburned or whatever. I don't think it's going to get done. The sun's not that intense right now anyway. But you do have to be careful with these plants when you first start out, because they've been pampered. They've been having all the, So I have seen people that take some time to pot, they just pot them up, get cuttings, and they just get them to come out, and then they'll take them and put them in. Put them in full sun, think, hey, now I'm going to get plenty of sun on them. These leaves aren't used to full sun right now, so I'm going to take them back in. I got a tree over there, I'm going to put them underneath, so they'll be in the shade. They'll be outside getting some more sunlight, because they've been in the box for 6 days, so they need sun, but they need to get acclimatized slowly. And I will keep you up on the trees, how they're doing in future videos. Again, I think this is a good way of growing citrus if you're going to try to do it in the Dakota zones. Now, if you're further south than I am, then if you're, like say, Houston south, you probably won't put them in the ground. They will grow better in the ground, they'll produce better in the ground, but you do have a problem with the freezes. If you do decide to put some in the ground, like you get these grown up, you can cover them up with leaves or whatever. to protect them. But anyway, these are the 6 trees I planted. I will put those in the description below, so if you want to know, I'll also put in the US Citrus Nursery website also. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have any questions or any comments, please put them down below. Thank you.